Hi everyone, welcome to Sunny Day Discussions. I am Sunny Day. So today I wanted to discuss the debt limit negotiation thing that occurred. But first, the mass shootings that happened in the last 2 days. So on the 30th, there was 2 mass shootings, and on the 31st, there was also 2 mass shootings. I will go over what's in the debt ceiling negotiation compromise, and then I will tell you my thoughts on it. So first off, it suspends the debt ceiling until January 1st, 2025. In the fiscal year 2024, it would limit military spending to $886 billion, exorbitant, and non-military discretionary spending to $704 billion. In 2025, both of those numbers will increase to $895 billion for military and $711 billion for the non-discretionary, or the discretionary, sorry. And it will rescind $28 billion in unspent COVID funds. And the breakdown of that is that it will eliminate $1.4 billion in IRS funding. And that will just mean that you'll have less people to answer the phones. There will be longer waiting times if people call with questions. So that's all. And it'll make it easier for the wealthy to get away with fraud because they won't have the staff members to do audits on such a large income. In the agricultural department, it will eliminate $3 billion, in part aimed at strengthening the food system and funding marketing measures. For the corporate national community service, $286 million for operating expenses. For educational department, $391 million from the Education Stabilization Fund to support states and schools during the pandemic. Now, in that one, schools who still have that fund are taking their time trying to figure out how to spend that money because they know that that money will stop being accessible. So they don't want to implement a program that's going to cost them a lot of money in the future. They want to be smart and implement programs that they can maintain and fund in the future without the reliance on this federal money. So now they're getting that yanked away. So that sucks. For the Health and Human Services, over $13 billion across the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Food and Drug Administration, and other response agencies for vaccine distribution, research, and pharmaceutical supply chain recovery. For the Labor Department, $1 billion from state grants aimed at addressing fraud and identity theft. For the Small Business Administration, $2 billion in disaster relief, all taken away. Transportation Department, $3.9 billion in highway infrastructure programs and the Aviation Manufacturing Jobs Protection Program, which gave money to businesses to help prevent furloughs and layoffs. The Treasury Department would lose $1 billion across several programs, including air carrier support and grants for small businesses. It just doesn't look like they're in it for the people. It will restart the federal student loan payment program. It will overhaul the National Environmental Policy Act, allowing for streamlining permits for projects, such as like a fast-track approval for the Mountain Valley Pipeline in West Virginia that will run through 1,000 different wetlands and rivers. Joe Manchin's pet project. That was a key that he wanted in there. Cuts for domestic law enforcement. So in essence, Republicans are defunding the police. The exact rhetoric that they say is just horrible and detrimental to our society. Now it's actually coming to fruition because, in part, of Republicans. Cuts funding for forest management. Forest management has initiatives that would help prevent fires by cleaning up dead debris, that kind of a thing. So in essence, they might just be helping climate change spread fires across the country. They're cutting funding for scientific research. They're making it harder for people ages 50 to 55 to get SNAP benefits because they are requiring additional work requirements. But what about those people who live in very rural communities, such as where I live, where there are no jobs? There's no job opportunities around here, nor can people afford to pack up and move to a place where there are jobs. So how is that going to help benefit the people? It's not. It's not. It's going to increase hunger. Again, there are a few good parts, okay parts. For instance, it will expand SNAP benefits, meaning that if you are homeless, if you're a veteran, or if you have a mental illness, you cannot be denied the benefits. There's no changes to Medicaid, no changes to Social Security and Medicare. It preserves the climate and clean energies provisions of last year's Inflation Reduction Act. It doesn't touch Biden's executive action on student loan payments or student debt forgiveness. There's a lot of economists, there's always mixed messaging. Some economists say it's great, some say it's not so great. Some say that this will do very little to affect the deficit or the economy. And others say that this will cut 1.5 trillion off of the deficit over a 10-year period. But those same people who said that have also said that Biden's current budget will cut 3 trillion off of our deficit over a 10-year period. So which one's more beneficial to the deficit? So my thoughts on this whole negotiation thing is that it shouldn't have happened. There should not have been any sort of negotiation involved. Democrats should have raised the debt ceiling during the lame duck session. It's almost like they feel like they're dealing with a party of Republicans who are honorable and have the best interest of the country in heart. So they trusted that things would go on as usual and the debt ceiling limit would be passed with no problems. But they're not dealing with that Republican Party. That Republican Party ceases to exist. It is now a party that is out for money, for corporations, and for themselves. Obviously, by the fact that they wanted to cut so many of these social programs, and the fact that they didn't get to cut all that they wanted to is a good thing. But because the Democrats didn't pass it during the lame duck session, Biden could have shown strength in invoking the 14th Amendment. There are many other avenues and outlets that he could have taken in regards to the fact that, the U.S. should not default on their debts and it should not be called into question. So he had some power, and I honestly think he should have called their bluff. Because if they really cared enough, they wouldn't have held this hostage. Because they didn't really have a hand to hold. Do they really want to be known as the party that crashed the global economy, that ruined the value of the US dollar? No, they wouldn't want to do that. And even if Biden did invoke the 14th Amendment, it would have gone to the Supreme Court. It's questionable about whether or not the Supreme Court would have sided with Biden. They probably would, because it is in the Constitution. But even if they didn't, everyone would know who was responsible for the catastrophe of not raising the debt limit. And I wouldn't want to go there. I wouldn't want to risk that. But you also have to have the confidence that, as horrible at policies and selfish as the Republicans are, that they would not have wanted to do that because it would affect their own constituents. And I think it would have cost them the election in 24. As it is, if they keep going on this route and they keep having hearings over Hunter Biden's laptop and they do nothing to address the problems that are affecting our country today, they might not stand a chance in 2024. But that's only if Democrats step up and actually do something that will help the American people. Like I've said before, their approval ratings go high when they institute programs that affect and help the average American. But they go down when they start doing things that help corporations and the wealthy. So it's not a complicated issue. Just help the American people. America is struggling right now. We're struggling financially, morally. Our safety is at risk. Members of the queer community are in danger. Members of minority communities, Black communities, Chinese communities are all in danger because of the rhetoric being spun by the Republican Party. And that's going to have an effect on the outcome of an election. I can only hope that the overall American populace is not that hateful. That the populace believes that individuals have a right to live comfortably, to be free in who they are, and to see past the lies of social spending is causing laziness and it's motivating people to not want to go back to work. The welfare queen myth, all of that. I hope that the majority of the people in this country are smart enough to see through the bullshit and see what's actually happening right in front of our faces. So, again, I disagree. I understand why they had to negotiate, but I also disagree that that was even a thing that they had to do. So that's all I have for today. Thank you for new subscribers. And again, vote. No matter how small, no matter how big, vote. And like, share, subscribe, and I will see you next time.